connecting with other influencers, right? People like Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, right? Well, you were building your brand, right? How important was that to form those connections? And you've collaborated on so much content, right? Let's dive into all those influencers.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like Adam Sosnick's hooked me up with a bunch of people. Dan Fleischman has hooked me up with a bunch of people, for sure. And then obviously Andrew Tate was the person who introduced me to Justin Waller, who's become one of my good friends. And then Justin introduced me to Rollo, and now Rollo and I have a show together. And so, yeah, I mean, these connections, I can go back and kind of, I can suss out the connections for like every single thing I have, and it's from someone else. And generally what happens is, like last night I was with a couple really successful guys, Rich Summers, who has a huge podcast here in San Diego. And the reason why is when we're together, all we do is talk solutions. So Rich last night was explaining to me running paid ads to a 2-hour webinar once a week. And so now my team, I tasked them to investigate, to try to figure that whole situation out. This might be something that we pivot towards, but because whenever I'm having dinner with these guys, all we discuss is ways to solve problems. That's the greatest networking tool I've ever had. And like I said before, guys, I'm not saying that you don't have internal self-worth, but your value to society is solely based on your utility as a man. It's not based on your looks, okay? It's based on your utility. What problems can you solve for other people, and what value do you have? And no matter how shallow that you think that is, I mean, that's the reason why, like, you'll have famous athletes, they'll go to a restaurant, they don't even have to pay for the food. Like it's just the way the world works, no matter how unfair it seems. So as a man, you're not enough. You have to have utility. So for me, consistently solving problems for my other entrepreneurial friends, and I have some friends that are so successful and you've never heard of them. They do TikTok shop, 10 million a month. Crazy numbers. The guys who actually own V-Shreds, not the guy who's on the cover for it. Those guys are friends of mine. Like crazy numbers, 25 million a month, crazy numbers. And we're always trying to solve problems for each other. And when I ask them for advice, they're so quick to give me fantastic advice. And so I would say at that level, that's when you notice things are the best. And the other thing is when you're at that level is when you go to dinner and like everyone's racing to pay, as opposed to when you go to dinner and everyone's like trying to skip the bill. That's kind of one of the biggest sort of dichotomies that I noticed, was like I couldn't even pay. They wouldn't even let me pay. You know what I'm saying? I was excited. It's like, oh, I'm going to get points. I'm going to use my Amex Gold and I'm going to get points for this dinner. And then I remember when you go out with Justin Waller, bro, you got to trick that dude. You got to get him talking to somebody and then sneak around and find the waiter, because he won't let you pay. Right? It's just like that with these guys. They race to pay. And that's something that I found with the very successful men, is that they do that because they want you to know that they value your time, and they're always trying to solve problems. And so, I mean, I can't give you a better piece of advice than that. Is like, if I were to meet, somebody I would look up to, let's say if I were to ever meet Elon Musk, the first thing I would do is ask him about some problems that he has, like, whether it comes to the radiation shielding for the first landing on Mars, or how he was to machine parts for Tesla. I would sit there and I would just talk about problems and possible solutions to those problems. Obviously, I'm not smart enough to figure out some of those problems, but I think that's the way that people like that communicate, is they solve problems for one another.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, Elon Musk, just think about, I just look at like his entry into politics, right?
Yeah.
And, he basically won the election for Trump in a lot of ways, right? With his on the ground election, getting out the vote.
Yeah.
And he had like this app, right? He basically knew Trump was going to win, but that just shows, right, that he can master something incredibly quickly.
Yeah. And
find a solution, right? Solution-oriented person.
Yeah.
You're friends with Dan Bilzerian, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you have some crazy Dan Bilzerian stories, right?
Bro, I have a ton of them. He just texted me this morning. We were going to play paintball on Sunday, but I won't be there. Dan is one of the most generous dudes I've ever met. I know some of the stuff he says right now is very controversial. I've known Dan for 12 years, 13 years, something like that. He is deceptively intelligent. Like, people don't understand, like, that is actually the reason why he was able to do so much of. Basically, he saw market inefficiency when it came to social media, and he totally exploited it. And he did so. Dan told me this one time on the phone. He goes, I played the video game of Instagram and I beat the final boss.
Well, his dad, right, was like a very successful hedge fund manager or something like that.
No, his dad was a criminal. It was a pump and dump. And
okay.
Dad doesn't like me saying this because Dan calls his dad a criminal. His dad was a noted a very accomplished human being, right? He was a Green Beret, fought in Vietnam. He graduated from Stanford and Harvard, but he was also sort of the pump and dump king of the 1980s and went to jail for it. And it was embarrassing to Dan. And, you know, I'm not saying anything that's out of turn here. Ignite, Dan's former company, Dan still owns stock in it, but he's not on the board anymore. Dan let his dad into the company, and his dad did some apparently allegedly shady shit, because now they're being investigated by the SEC. But you'll notice with the SEC complaint against Ignite, Dan Bilzerian is not named in that complaint because Dan was not at the helm when that whole thing happened. Dan has made some extremely controversial comments about Israel recently that have gotten him into a lot of trouble, and it also made him very popular with certain segments of the population. And he and I discuss those things privately sometimes. I'm gonna tell you I don't agree with all the things that he says, but he's been like a brother to me, so I'm definitely not gonna sell him out, even though several people have told me to. I'm like, nah, he's been really good for me. He's been really good to me, and he's helped me out with my business a lot. And he has a very, I should probably say the best way to explain Dan, he has a way of seeing the world and making extremely complicated things very simple and coming up with solutions for those things. And I know it doesn't seem like that when you listen to him talk, but it really is. He does have simple solutions for certain ideas. And it's really impressive when you listen to him. But he also is kind of like, he's made a ton of money and he just doesn't give a shit. He's got fuck you money, so he's saying fuck you stuff on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I tell Dan all the time, I'm like, no, bro, I would never say this because like I like making money. It's crazy, you know? So that's kind of where we are. But yeah, I just talked to him this morning about playing paintball. On Sundays we play paintball every week at his house.
Didn't he originally make a good chunk of his money in poker?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There's a bunch of controversy around this. Let me end the controversy right now. I've seen the Wire transcript. I've seen the wires, and I've literally seen the text messages between he and Alec Gores. He did indeed win $44 million off of Alec Gores, the SPAC king. And he did indeed win at least $10 million off Sam Majid. I have seen the wire transfers. There's several poker players that will attest to this. People are like, no, he got his money from his dad. I don't know. Maybe he did get money from his dad, but I haven't seen it, number one. And number two, Dan is the type of person who has admitted to losing his virginity to a fucking whore in Tijuana. He's admitted to smuggling steroids across the border. He's admitted to having people videotape him while he was masturbating when he was a kid. And you're telling me Dan is too embarrassed to admit that he got money from a hedge fund? He has not. I don't believe that shit whatsoever. That's number one. And then number two, I know for a fact he's won at least $50 million from playing poker. For a fact. And I will put that up against, there's so much proof that he's done that, that he's documented. And I remember, who's that? Doug Polk made this really critical video of Dan, and then Dan did a live stream with Doug, and Dan proceeded to feed this dude his liver, like destroyed his argument. And then at the end, Doug had to admit, it's like, okay, yeah, you're probably telling the truth. Dan has never said he's the greatest poker player in the world. What he said is he was better than anyone else in the world at getting bad people to lose money to him. Bad poker players, people who thought they were good poker players, to lose money to him. So yeah, that's it's real interesting stuff. But again, like his viewpoint on the world, you'll see like there'll be a complicated problem and he has simple solutions for it. It's really interesting, which is what he did with when it came to being famous, being on social media, and dealing with really, really attractive women. And so that's there's so much that he's done that could be studied that I think is going to get thrown by the wayside because of some of the controversial things that he said. And I think that's kind of sad. Like Dan came up with there's Dan the philosopher, and then there's Dan my friend. Dan the philosopher has these incredible ideas when it comes to like pre-selection and like attracting women, and they're correct. Like I can tell you emphatically all of them are correct. And then there's Dan my friend, which is very different, situation, just really, really generous guy, and just gives, it's just been a cool we have some group chats where we say some horrible shit to each other too. But yeah, it's just been a really interesting change. And I've seen him before when it really was all about the clubs and the girls, and now it's not about that at all.
On the opposite side of that, right, you obviously hang out with some big players, right? Yeah. People that we all know about. But who are some people we know about, we see on social media that you want to call out as not the real deal? Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I will tell you that Chris GQ Perry, Derek Jackson, Will Hitchens, and Justin Baldoni are the only reason they have any following whatsoever is because they pander to women. That's all they do. So one of the problems with my type of content is that the majority of like items, commerce that's bought over social media is bought by women. And so when you have content like mine that holds men and women accountable, well, that means I'm holding women accountable. Women don't want to buy, they don't want to advertise on my content. So TikTok really ratios my type of content. When you pander to women like they do, basically, when I say women pandering, if you ever listened again to Derek Jackson, Chris GQ Perry, Justin Baldoni, and Will Hitchens, if you ever listen to those or content creators like that, you're going to notice it's never the man, it's never the woman's fault. If a woman is doing something stupid, it's because she's unhealed or she has trauma that she's dealing with. Men don't bring enough to the table, and men need to step up. And only really great men would date women who have children, and women can just sense when you're doing something wrong, and women can sense when you're basically they're saying things that they know is nonsense, but it validates women before. Like some women act crazy and they're being told that they act crazy. And now you have guys out here saying, no, baby, you're not crazy. He really is doing the stuff to you. And women are falling for it. And it's some of the most destructive stuff I've ever seen. The greatest gaslighter on all of the internet is Chris GQ Perry. There is no doubt whatsoever. He says these things clearly with no intention of believing them whatsoever. He just says them. And here's the thing that's most disturbing about these guys is that all four of the guys I just mentioned, they're when they make their content, they're speaking to men, but no men watch them. They're speaking to men on behalf of women, and women are cheering them on with some of the nonsense that they're saying. There's one clip I can't forget about this. Is Chris GQ Perry saying that women can tell you're cheating on them by a dream. Do you understand how incredibly dangerous that is? We used to have, like 70 years ago in this country, used to convict people because we felt like they were guilty because of the color of their skin. That's how our judicial system worked. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Now we're convicting men of cheating because you had a dream? Do you understand how, I just don't think people understand how destructive that line of thinking is. And he perpetuates it by saying that, yes, you're correct. No, any lady who's watching this, yeah, I have caught my boyfriend cheating because of a dream. No, you didn't. You caught your boyfriend dreaming. You caught your boyfriend cheating because of reason, logic, and deduction. And the dream may have triggered you to go search for evidence that he was cheating. But if you broke up with your boyfriend just because you had a dream, you're an idiot. And you broke up with a guy who probably wasn't cheating on you. And you don't want to take accountability for your own actions. So that's it. Just this constant pandering to women to where it's always men's fault. That's really problematic. What's problematic to me additionally is that the social media algorithms consistently reward their content with millions of views. And the thing that really also makes me sad is that really well-intentioned, intelligent women I know still follow these idiots and still think that, again, you'll notice you'll never see Derek Jackson or Will Hitchens do a public debate because they'll get destroyed. I'll just bring up statistics that show what they're saying is patently false, and they would never do it. So what they do is they kind of stay up in their perch and throw rocks at men, and then just and then women just cheer them on, and the algorithm just loads them up with viewers after viewers after viewers. If you want to do an experiment right now, anybody who's watching this, go on TikTok and start making content where it's always men's fault and women are always the victim. Just make any kind of content like that. And I will guarantee you will end up with 300,000 followers so fast you won't even know what's going on. It won't make any sense to you. Say stuff you don't believe. Just all you do is just totally pander to women, and you will see astronomical growth on TikTok and Instagram. You will not see astronomical growth on YouTube. YouTube does not really reward men for pandering to women. So just try it as an experiment. I've had several of my clients say, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to pander to women on all my videos. I had one guy do that. Literally, he makes this video where he goes, I'm at Coachella, and there's all this thing about if your girl goes to Coachella, she's our girl, or she's not really your girl. It's that's not true. This is just great networking. Why are you being so insecure? And he was joking because if your girl goes to Coachella without you, that's really bad. And he was obviously joking, and the video went mega viral because all these women agreed with him. It was so funny to watch. All you have to do is pander to women, and you will blow up on social media.
You know Andrew Tate, and he's had controversy,
yes,
feud with the Pauls,
yes,
right? Logan and Jake Paul. What are your thoughts? What do you think about Logan and Jake Paul and that controversy, the Tates versus the Pauls?
Listen, Logan and Jake are doing what was set in front of them. Wasn't, for them to go that popular on Vine, the problem is what happened was, one of the things that really was disconcerting to me was how Logan tried to be this sort of champion where he was anti-Andrew Tate in the beginning, but he was clearly reading something off screen. It was someone told him to say this. I thought that was really disingenuous. But at the same time, I've met Logan and Jake on a few occasions, one of them with Bilzerian, and they've been nothing but nice. I thought they were super cool guys. I've never had an issue with them. I think what they've done is they've taken this dynamic of the privileged white kid that you want to hate, and they've pushed it to such an extent that they've turned themselves into 100 millionaires. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like you wanted to see Mike Tyson beat this spoiled white kid, blonde kid's ass. And so it made you watch the fight, even though like Mike Tyson's 57 years old and can't move his right knee. That was the whole issue. And they've also made an incredible living off being the bad guy. You know what I'm saying? They have like doing the thing that you don't want them to do. The problem I think with the Pauls is that I do think they are somewhat influenced by woke Hollywood culture. Way more Logan than Jake. Jake seems to be kind of coming out of that. So I think that's interesting. I have nothing but respect for the way they built their brand. I don't like the fact that they may have endorsed a shill coin or two. That's problematic. I also don't like the fact that, you know, with their drink prime that Logan has, anyone who criticizes him, he just makes personal attack videos against him. What no plates, no dates, more plates, more dates said about Prime is accurate. It's not this end all be all thing. But other than that, like their ability to like the way they react to criticism, everything they do that just makes them more popular. So I think there's a lot of things you can learn from them. As far as Andrew is concerned, I think one of the things is with him is he's probably the most skilled orator we have in the entire world right now. I'll say that. If you want to debate me on that, I'm sorry. Andrew can go viral easier than anyone I've ever met in my life. And I always thought I was a good speaker until I saw him. He trumps everyone I've ever seen. I'm not comparing him to Martin Luther King, but he's that level of a speaker. He truly is. If you don't believe me, then explain why he was the most Googled human in the world in August of 22. He became more famous faster than any human in the history of humanity. And again, his methodology, I do think some of the stuff he says is a bit reductive. Like I don't think it's quite as black and white as he says. And I do think he really does play into the us versus them role in order to get you to buy into what he's doing. But he's also really smart. And the other thing I'll tell you is, so I hung out with Tristan too. Tristan is like, in a social situation, Tristan is actually like the leader. Like everyone loves Tristan. It's very similar to Fresh and Fit with Myron and Fresh. Yeah. We all go on there. Like we all love Myron, but we all go on there for Fresh because Fresh is our friend. Fresh is so cool. He's like the social leader of everything. That's kind of the way Tristan is with Andrew. Tristan is so affable. He just really owns who he is as a person. And so it's really, really good stuff. With the controversies, the only thing I'll say is this. I'm not going to speak specifically to Andrew or Tristan. One thing I have learned is that you as a man leave a digital footprint, and you have to be careful of every single thing you say, especially when it's recorded. Those voice memos on it's funny because when I talk to it's the same thing when I talk to Andrew, when I talk to Owen Cook, when I talk to Ty Lopez, all of them, we all talk on WhatsApp and the messages always disappear because I think we've all learned the lesson. It's like anything we say can be taken out of context. So that's the other thing is I tell guys, don't snitch on yourselves. I never leave lascivious messages for women ever. They send me lascivious messages and my response is go with God. Have a great day. Stay blessed. And girls will send videos of them like doing sexual stuff and I'm like, stay blessed. Have a great day. I never respond with lascivious stuff because I always know it could be used against me. She could go back, get angry at me, delete all her messages to me and make it look like I was just messaging her over and over again. I've seen this happen numerous times. And so that's the only thing. I definitely have learned that lesson from watching the way everything Andrew Tate has said has been used against him. One of the things that disturbs me, I'm not going to speak to his guilt or innocence. He's my friend, so I don't think I have the right to speak to his guilt or innocence. I know what I believe, and I've expressed it before. What I am gonna say is what really disconcerting to me is my friends who are liberals or they're feminists, and they want to believe he's guilty because they disagree with him. That's very dangerous. They want to believe he's guilty because they don't agree with his politics. That's wanting someone's guilt or innocence is separate from their politics. And I think that level of like online bigotry, I think is problematic. Like maybe he is guilty, maybe he's innocent. What I do know is that he's not guilty because you don't agree with what he has to say, because you disagree with his political views or his views on women. Therefore, he is guilty of money laundering and sex trafficking. No, that is a dangerous, dangerous road to go down. So that's the only thing I would say. And I remember initially thinking, man, the way he communicates is so bombastic, it's going to get him into trouble. But then again, he's way more famous than me, so I need to shut the fuck up and just listen. Like, I don't have any right to I don't have any right to criticize the way he communicates, because what he's doing is so outrageously effective. So yeah, that's when you ask me about Logan or Jake or Andrew or Tristan, the only thing I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to learn from what they do well. And that's what I recommend other people do. Figure out the things they do well and learn from what they do well. Just like in the U.S. military academies, we study Erwin Rommel, even though he's a horrible, racist. We still study him. We still study Robert E. Lee, even though he was a horrible racist. So we take the good things he did, and then we just kind of discard the bad things. And so we still study these people, even though, they didn't do, the best. They didn't have the best of intentions for humanity. We still study them. And so I'm not comparing those guys to the people I just mentioned. What I'm saying is, even with their flaws, there's so many things that you can learn from Andrew, Tristan, Jake, and Logan.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I love that you made that point, right? Because, we're military people, right?
Yeah.
We've, studied, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Lee, Rommel, right? Their tactics and strategies. And,
yeah,
right? It's because they had utility and were effective, right?
Yes,
and then obviously
they were effective. We studied Genghis Khan. What Genghis Khan did was horrific. He killed 10% of the human population. It's like literally, like him and his clan are probably responsible for more rapes than anyone in the history of humanity. It's horrible, but we study him all the time. We talk about Genghis Khan all the time. We still study what he did. And I still think you can take the good without the bad.
100%. And I'm sure, someone might try to cancel me, but if you look at Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin, right, obviously evil and terrible.
Yeah.
But how did these peasants, right, end up the heads of their countries, right? That has to be studied.
Yeah, the idea of the strongman, the populist, especially when dealing with Hitler, when you read about him, I highly recommend everyone read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. It's a fantastic book. And it kind of goes over what happened. It's like, rightly or wrongly, he said things that made those people believe in him, and that's what happened. And the fact, like, he used kind of a victimology when it came to the rest of Europe taking advantage of Germany and the Jews, and by doing so, he got a bunch of people to be behind him. I wouldn't recommend you do that, but I would recommend you can still learn. There's a function of the human mind where it's like, when you create an us versus them mentality, you can really unify a lot of people. You can, and so those are lessons that you can learn from all of them. With Stalin, I mean, that's just, you don't even allow anyone to have another opinion. That Stalinist stuff, I would actually say, is probably the worst of the three of them. Like what Joseph Stalin did, I mean, he is directly responsible for hundreds of millions of people just dying for no reason, in part because of the way communism really bastardized the way biology works. So one of the reasons why there were wheat famines with Mao Zedong and with Joseph Stalin was because they didn't understand Mendelian biology. Like, they didn't understand how to breed crops. It was just really, really just like outlandish levels of stupidity. By the way, the Nazis did the same thing. Just outlandish levels of stupidity that happened because of that. Just an inability to understand biology. Yeah.
Yeah, as the quote goes, right, nobody killed more communists than Stalin.
Yeah, nobody killed. Yeah, nobody. Well, maybe Mao, right? maybe Mao Zedong killed more than Stalin. But yeah, it's a lot. I mean, you realize like 25 million people died when the German invasion of Russia during World War II, and so much of it was preventable because he refused to believe he was going to get invaded.
Yeah,
just like that. That is one of the emperor has no clothes. The definition of that is Joseph Stalin.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're almost at time, but Michael, want to give you the ability to, show where people can get involved with Men of Action, right? And also leave any parting wisdom and thoughts to the audience.
The parting wisdom I would leave for all of you is to find mentors, to recognize that the world is not all about you, to have present moment awareness, to have incredible levels of gratitude for the fact that you can even watch videos on the internet. It's like incredible. If you have 2 arms and 2 legs that are working, be incredibly grateful for it. Come to the recognition that you can make millions of dollars right now from your home by typing words, by typing on a typewriter. You can, like, on your keyboard, you can make millions of dollars. You don't have to travel. Like, just have incredible gratitude for like the place that you are in right now. I recommend every one of you listens to audiobooks at double speed. I recommend all of you listen to YouTube videos or podcasts at double speed so you can get more data in quicker. I recommend all of you get through at least 30 or 40 audiobooks per year to try to just, up your game. I recommend for guys who want to date, want to get better at dating, the number one thing I'm going to tell you is fix your social media and have a bunch of female friends. I promise you nothing is going to level you up faster than that. And then if you are looking if you're a person and you don't have enough abundance in your life, like for instance, if you couldn't replace your girlfriend, your social circle, and your job in 15 minutes, you don't have enough abundance. If you want to level up in the areas of dating, networking, leadership, and communication, then there's no better program than the one we created. I have created the most comprehensive male self-improvement program in the history of the world. There's no other, none of these other leadership programs go over dating. None of these other dating programs go over leadership. None of these other programs go over finance. It is the most comprehensive male self-improvement program in history. If you're interested in leveling up and being with a bunch of people who can lift you up every day, you're the result of the 5 people that you're closest with. If you want those 5 people to be 10x more wealthy than you, to make you more wealthy, to invigorate your mind, to actually be a catalyst for you to have great ideas, to create unbelievable businesses, if you want to do that, and at the same time have incredible boundaries and a plethora of options when it comes to women. Boundaries with women, so you can't be manipulated, and a plethora of options with women, so you generate massive amounts of attraction. There is no second place. We're the only show in town, MOAmentoring.com. There's no one who competes with us. We don't even have competition. And if you want to go look on there, just scroll down a little bit and you'll see 200 testimonials. Just pick any one of them and watch the testimonial on how we've been able to change so many men's lives to be able to better. And because we make men better, it benefits women more than anything. There's nothing in the world greater for women than for men to not be creepy, and there's nothing in the world better for men than for men to not be creepy. So it's what we teach guys, and we've been quadrupling the business probably every year. We just crossed 3,700 clients, and we're able to help as many people as possible. If you're not ready to join, you're not ready to commit the level of resources, then let me recommend going to school.com, SKOOL.com, and look up the Men of Action Forum. It's $5 a month or $47 a year. And in there, you can see we have several free courses that you can get access to. You get one free call with me for 3 hours. We do once a month. It'll be on the 27th of this month is the next one. You can ask me as many questions as you want. You get access to our schedule, and you get access to the 2,400 other guys that are in the Men of Action Forum. So I'd recommend guys go do that as well.